Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to do a brief review of Palantir's third quarter earnings results. The stock was down more than 12% on the day the earnings were announced, so let's take a look at what had investors disappointed in Palantir's third quarter earnings. And the main theme here is that investors are not liking the revenue growth decelerating at Palantir. Overall, revenue increased by 22% in the third quarter to 478 million. The net loss of 123 million was worse than the loss of 101 million last year, and this has been an ongoing story with Palantir is solid top line revenue growth but mounting losses on the bottom line. Customer count increased by 66% year over year to just 337. Q3 net retention rate of 119% was down sequentially. And you might ask, why does this company have such few customers? And it's because it's so expensive to contract Palantir to come to your company to optimize your data research processes. And so there are relatively few companies that can afford Palantir's services. During the third quarter, Palantir closed 78 deals that were worth at least $1 million. Government business surpassed $1 billion on a trailing 12-month basis. So you ask, who can afford Palantir services? Certainly governments have enough money to afford Palantir services, and the bulk of its revenue has come thus far from governments. And it's good that Palantir is expanding its commercial business clients to diversify its revenue base, but up till this point, governments have been supporting Palantir's revenue growth thus far. The average revenue per top 20 customer increased by 15% to 48 million. This is good news that Palantir's top tier customers are expanding their spending with Palantir. That's evidence that the customers are gaining sufficient value, sufficient return on their investments with Palantir to expand their budget, right? Otherwise, they would decrease their budget and say, you know what, this isn't working, Palantir. We're spending all of these millions of dollars with you and you're not bringing value to our business, so we're going to decrease or eliminate our spending with you. That's not the case. It's the opposite. These top 20 customers are saying, hey, it's working so far. Let's boost our budget and see what else you can do for our business, how else we can harness our data to reduce costs, to expand revenue, to just improve our business overall. And so that's good news for investors in Palantir stock. Remaining performance obligations increased by 43% to 1.3 billion. This is when Palantir signs on a client, it signs on a deal for the long term. It might be for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and that becomes a performance obligation on its balance sheet, on its income statement, and it doesn't turn into revenue until Palantir actually performs the services that were contracted. So Palantir cannot recognize all of the revenue once the deal is signed. It can only recognize the revenue incrementally as it performs the obligations that were signed in that deal. And so these obligations increased by 43% to 1.3 million. Again, that's good news for Palantir stock investors. Palantir, despite these losses on the bottom line, is in a healthy financial position. They ended the third quarter with 2.4 billion in cash and no debt. So their financial position is strong. And here is where investors were disappointed with Palantir is the fourth quarter guidance was called for continued revenue deceleration. So the fourth quarter revenue growth is going to be less than the third quarter revenue growth of 22%. And this is what's upsetting investors, is that Palantir is valued like a hyper growth company, a hyper growth stock, but that doesn't jive with this continued decelerating top line growth. So something has to give. Either the valuation has to come down for a company that's growing at a slower rate, or the growth rates have to accelerate. And so there's a mismatch there. And this is what I believe caused the stock price to fall 12% on the day of the announcement. All right, so that's all I've got for this Palantir stock earnings update. If you gained some value from this video, please go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. It'll help me create more videos like this one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. The Motley Fool is a company that provides investing insight and stock recommendations for all investors of all skill sets and risk levels. So I'm proud to partner with the Motley Fool to bring you 10 stock picks from their popular product, Stock Advisor. Stock Advisor has beaten the market by more than 3 times. Go to fool.com/parkev to get your 10 stock picks now.